And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Today we'll be talking about how you should not pole vault the Caldera, a rising large active region in the northeast of the sun, as well as lots more stuff. By the way, I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. We've got a new sunspot as well, and an uptick in volcanic activity. So what we're looking at here is this is a composite series of images from the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. 3 different wavelengths of the UV light spectrum, 211 angstroms, 304 angstroms, and 171 angstroms. That's the blue. Sunspot 2808 up here, 2809 down here, and a likely new sunspot group to be named 2810 right there. And we'll show you more in-depth information about that momentarily. First, a diagram of the solar system, as we like our viewers to be oriented to things like the truth and reality in science. Here is where stuff is in the solar system. And there's where things will be in a week. Here's a star chart. If you're up before dawn, you may see things like Saturn rising ahead of the sun. I like to use in-the-sky.org. And you can animate these maps as well. And you can see Saturn actually slated to rise a little before 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. The radio flux, the output of the outer chromosphere and lower corona, is at 78 solar flux units, and you can expect that to go up soon, significantly, as we've got an active region rising, and we're seeing a lull in the uptick in solar activity here at the beginning of cycle 25. So this area right here, pretty low levels of activity after seeing this big spike early in the cycle. Now an ongoing period of time of low solar activity. This upward line, this black line here, this is the 10.7 centimeter radio flux line, and this red line down here is the sunspot number. And I just wanted to pull up a quick image here of the LASCO C3, located at Lagrangian point 1, about 1 million miles toward the sun, between the Earth and sun. A great view of Venus there on the LASCO C3 coronagraph. And before we continue on, I just want to make sure that the stream is doing good. All right, we saw some bandwidth issues at the beginning. I think those have scrubbed up. Next, some more images of the sun. Here's a 193 angstroms view, and we've got a couple of coronal hole features here, in addition to the sunspots. So, again, we've got sunspot 2809 here, 2808 here, which has decayed to plage, no longer a sunspot. And down here, a new group, and it's looking beta class. So the likelihood of solar flares has gone up a bit. And we also see this significant South Pole-oriented coronal hole under my pointer. Here's another full disk image in 304 angstroms. The UV emission spectra of ionized helium. And we're going to show you a close-up of the southern hemisphere in magnetogram to show you the new sunspot forming. So if you keep your eye on this area right here, you'll see the magnetic organization of a new beta-class sunspot group, likely to be named later today, Sunspot 2810. And we've got more custom images of the local yellow dwarf for the end of the video. Next, it's our brand new Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera section of the video. So here at youtube.com/smAshomash, as well as twitch.tv/smAshomash and BitChute, we would remind our viewers to not pole vault the Caldera, as that could be what we would consider unsafe. So whatever you do, make sure you don't pole vault the caldera and visit our sites. Let's get into volcanoes. Today's volcanic list includes some additional upticks here. So once again, another paroxysm at Etna. I think it's on number 14 now or something like that. So a little bit longer interval here. We're seeing longer intervals between major eruptions from Etna. A bit less than 3 days since the eruption on March 12th. So uptick at Etna once again. Etna doing some rather spectacular stuff. And guess what? A 5.4 magnitude earthquake at Fagradalsfjall. Yes, Fagradalsfjall. I learned how to pronounce it last week, and now I'm delighted to say Fagradalsfjall. And you can try to say it too if you like. Fagradalsfjall. Go ahead. Let's all repeat it at the same time out loud. Fagradalsfjall. 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 Anyway, Tom Winder on Twitter, I got to follow this guy after this, has posted a video from the webcam apparently showing this, and we can't go to full screen, but I'll show you the video anyway. You're going to see a shaky camera as the mid-5 magnitude quake strikes. The valley near Fagradalsfjall. Will it erupt in spectacular fashion, or will the seismicity just go down and the activity with it? Mount Abico on Paramushir Island has been producing a 10,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Sakurajima exploding. Volcanic ash emissions there producing an 8,000-foot ash plume. 7,000-foot ash plume at Subanose-jima, and Pinatubo, which has recently been upgraded from green to level 1 alert, recorded a total of 91 volcanic earthquakes in the past week. Although no other activities were observed, level 1 alert remains. Mount Taal in the Philippines, another Philippine volcano, also now on the list. An upwelling of high-temperature volcanic gases at the lake surface was recorded yesterday, March 14th. Also steam-laden plumes. So there could be another significant eruption fixing to happen at Taal. Sinabung, the world's deadliest volcano over the past few years, located in Sumatra. One of the islands of Indonesia has been exploding. 11,000-foot ash plume there. Popocatépetl in Mexico exploding. Pacaya in Guatemala. Some dark eruption columns coming from it, with an estimated altitude of 12 to 13,000 feet. Don't pole vault that caldera. Also some lava flows up there. Those could damage your pole, folks, so don't pole vault the caldera. Also Fuego exploding. Flight level 150, it's a 15,000-foot ash plume over the Guatemalan volcano. And Mamotombo in Nicaragua now exploding as well. So that's a new one. We've never reported that volcano on our daily space weather ever. 5,000-foot ash plume there. Don't attempt to hang glide the caldera, but certainly don't pole vault it. Sangay, down in Ecuador, has dispersed its ash. Revenador exploding in Ecuador. 15,000-foot ash plume there, and Sabancaya were unable to detect whether or not it's erupting. So whatever you do, don't pole vault the caldera. And there's a full screen image of the 5.4 magnitude earthquake near Fagradalsfjall. Pretty significant shake in there. By the way, if you don't want to pole vault the caldera and you want to tell your friends about it, you can actually buy merch with the "Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera" meme on the clothes. And there are some other products as well, including things like shower curtains, comforters, throw pillows, phone cases that have patterns of that design. You can even get socks or masks in 3 different sizes. So check that out. You can link to all of that at our homepage, smAshomash.com. You can find our social media links, our VoIP line, our email address, etc. at smAshomash.com. And that is the smAsho merch, is that Redbubble shop, which will take you to this site. And we've actually got 6 designs up there now. So go have a look if you haven't checked that out yet. Again, you can link to all of that at smAshomash.com. Let's do earthquakes next. The past 24 hours of earthquakes certainly include a mid-5 level earthquake at Iceland. Let's see what else is on the list. Starting things out with a 4.7 here at Papua New Guinea. And again, I just want to check the life of the stream here before we continue on. We'll put the map right back here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Yes, least busted name in news, folks. And we're just going to scroll up the list here. We see a 4.5 at Iceland as well. A 5.1 at Iran. That's a more rare spot for a quake there. How about a 5.4 near the South Sandwich Islands, near the Antarctican/South Pacific plate boundary? And here's that 5.4 that we watched footage of. And there's a location of it, most likely felt at Reykjavik. Just out to sea was that 5.4 magnitude quake. Say it aloud, folks. Fagradalsfjall. Fagradalsfjall. You can do it. And just continuing up the list here, that was actually one of the largest quakes of the past 24 there. We saw a couple quakes in Kansas, a 3.4 and a 3.9. Leave us a comment if you felt that earthquake. A 3.9 in Kansas. We'll just show the location of that real quick. And there's a location right in Wichita. So if you felt that quake, leave us a comment. And thanks for tuning in, viewers of Kansas. A deep quake struck Fiji. 5.2 magnitude at over 540 kilometers depth. So a couple deep quakes there. Not a huge list. And some quakes in some weird spots. Continuing on to go to some more solar data. We don't see any major X-ray flares, although the likelihood of solar flares has now gone up significantly. Again, we have a large active region rising that we'll show you toward the end of the video, as well as 2 sunspot groups in the Earth-facing zone. No proton strikes here. We show it daily to show you that it's flatlined. And if we were expecting an uptick in this, we would have told you beforehand. The GOES magnetometer is next. There's a 3-day chart of it, and we're seeing lower highs and higher lows at the end of the graph here. You can see this since yesterday around noontime. We saw a pretty low high, and now we've seen high lows. GOES magnetometer in a pretty tight range here over the past 24 hours. Next, looking at the polarity of the current sheet, the heliospheric current sheet. And the Earth is solidly in a South Pole current sheet, and no expectation for this to change anytime soon, including with that active region rising. So keep in mind this data is 1 hour and 43 minutes old and can change suddenly. It's showing you the polarity of the heliospheric current sheet, South Pole oriented shown in red, North Pole oriented shown in green. And here's another view of the same data. This is the line of sight coronal hole plot, and you can see that large coronal hole rotating in. We can expect significant geo-effective solar wind from that incoming coronal hole in about 5 days. And we're talking about this red area down here, rotating into the Earth-facing zone. And this view shows you the sun's B field in blue. Here's a quick little image of the current sunspot situation, as well as the solar magnetogram, and you can see that area down there in the south. To the southeast of sunspot 2809, likely to be named 2810 today, showing mostly beta class 2 umbrae, in other words, of opposite polarity. You can see the leading polarity here is red south pole, and the trailing polarity is green north pole, making it a beta class sunspot, which are more likely to produce solar flares, although it is a very small sunspot. And we'll be keeping an eye on that region in the northeast. Let's go to the real-time solar wind next, which has been pretty uneventful here, ramping down over the past 24 hours. Solar wind density currently at about 6.3 protons per cubic centimeter. Current solar wind, did I say solar wind density? Current solar wind density, 6.3 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed just over 500 kilometers per second. So still elevated here. And we are in electron flux warning levels. We'll get to that momentarily as well. And you can see the KP index ramping down here. This is a measurement of global geomagnetism for all you new viewers. Current KP index at 2 for the last at least about 6 hours. Each bar representing 3 hours on this visual. Next, looking at the magnetosphere. And if you're wondering what this really is, this is a visualization of the density in the magnetosphere, folks. This is based on a space weather modeling framework and includes a lot of different data. So it includes the full gambit of the solar wind information, as well as things like Van Allen belts and ground-based magnetometers and space-based magnetometers. It's 4 hours of data courtesy University of Michigan. That was the density. Here's the pressure. The previous pane was showing density in protons per cubic centimeter. This is showing magnetism, magnetic pressure in nanopascals. Again, solar wind still is slightly elevated. Next, ground magnetic perturbations. We're showing you now the Earth's B field and changes in it. So here's the polar view. We don't always show the polar view, but as we see the solar wind subsiding, we're interested to see what the sort of net effect of the most current data is. Geospace delta B, changes in the Earth's B field. Here's the global view since we showed the polar view. And we're expecting to see auroras here subside here with the subsiding of that coronal hole wind stream. Expect to see the solar wind dip below 500 today. So, by the way, we are streaming live to Twitch. It's twitch.tv/smAsho. And we do more live streaming to Twitch than any other platform because it's so good. And I would remind our viewers to press like and subscribe. If you're viewing us on a platform besides YouTube, please go over and check YouTube because we've got many more videos there than any place else. youtube.com/smAsho. And again, thanks for everybody who tunes into the live premiere and so on. This was streamed live to Twitch. We like the live format. We also do live streams on YouTube. Check out our playlists, youtube.com/smAsho/playlists. And if you're wondering about our subscription count, let me just briefly talk about that. Our subscription count has been completely stagnated between 1,740 and 1,750. And not just between 1740 and 1750, exactly 1740 and 1750. For the past pushing 2 weeks now, we've seen exactly 1,740 or 1,750 subscribers. You be the judge of how that's possible. Next, BitChute. We're also there thanks to our BitChute subscribers. And again, if you're only viewing the videos on BitChute, make sure you watch on YouTube as well. There's lots of exclusive content there. We even splice cosmology segments. Today's will be integrated into the daily space weather video. And today's cosmology segment is somewhat interesting. We've got a planetary nebula to talk about, and we'll pick a random object as well. So let's get to it. First, we're going to pick a quantum random number in between 1 and 1031 to coincide with an object at the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory. Today's number is 147, and let's see what that coincides with over at the Burst Alert Telescope. So we'll just scroll down to number 147, which is V392 Perseus, which is a sporadic emitter of X-rays. This chart here, going back to 2011, shows only intermittent bursts of X-rays. And if you look down in the lower left, that's the 30-day chart, showing some recent X-ray outbursts. So let's just do a quick search here. V392 Per. No idea what that might be. Probably a star. V392 Persei. There we go. It's a bright nova in the constellation. So this is interesting, a dwarf nova. Perhaps this requires further study. It's a type of cataclysmic variable star consisting of a close binary system where, what a surprise, a white dwarf accretes matter from a cool main sequence subgiant companion. So that's pretty interesting, and we are currently in burst mode for that particular object. And I'm going to open another tab for that. We may have to revisit that in the future. V392 Persei, the cataclysmic variable. Speaking of cataclysmic variables, here's another planetary nebula, and this one's unusual in that not only do we see two novel-like shells around it, you can see one fresher one and one older one, it looks like. And let's bring up the large image of this here to get the rest of that stuff off the screen. Fantastic view there of that planetary nebula. And you can find this article on SciTech Daily. And what we're seeing here is actually two shells. So we've got this older looking shell down here, which is outside of this newer looking shell, which is more brightly illuminated. And this is yet another demonstration of how we do not understand the life cycle of stars. Anybody telling you that we understand the life cycle of stars is fooling themselves, because there are all kinds of exceptions that do not prove the rule whatsoever. We've never seen a star get born. We've never seen a star die. We've seen them wink out, and we've seen them turn back on. And this completely refutes the entire realm of cosmology, pretty much. This is located in Abell. This is Abell 78, the planetary nebula. And it's a white dwarf, which has been casting off its shells, but apparently not all of its shells, because it's done it once and then it's done it again. And again, folks, I'm not blowing smoke here when I say we don't understand the life cycles of stars. It's part of the reason why we have the channel. And look for an upcoming video about this pretty soon here at the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News. And that's today's cosmology segment. One more little addition here. The sun is the Rosetta Stone of all cosmology. And if we don't understand how the sun does what it does, how can we be arrogant enough to suggest that we understand what's going on in the cores of distant galaxies? Next, back to some of your friendly neighborhood daily space weather data. Here's the electron flux over the past year, and we forecasted an uptick in the electron flux yesterday. Here is the 3-day chart of the electron flux, and we're toying with warning levels right now. That red dotted line coincides with 1,000 pulse flux units. Here you're really looking at density. It's a slightly different measurement. So there's the density as measured by the GOES 16, just barely in warning levels here. And here's the forecast model. You can see the forecast here. The green squares are the forecast, and the yellow diamonds are the observation. You may notice that I was forecasting an uptick in the electron flux here, unlike NOAA. So note that, because sometimes we are able to forecast things and then we do it. When we're not, we just simply don't, as I prefer to not defame and discredit myself. So now we're looking at a visualization of the total electron content, and we see a little more organized electron flux here. I'll let that play through a second time. And for you new viewers, this will show you things like where GPS errors are likely to occur. For example, you may have seen some GPS errors around the Middle East at nighttime. That's caused by some anomalous blobs of electrons. Next, looking at an atmospheric diagram here. This is just a diagram of the atmosphere because we're going to show you just a slice. So we're going to show you the visualization of just this area right here around 300 kilometers of altitude. It's the F ionosphere layer. And here is a visualization of that. We see some rapid charge-ups here over places like India and the Indian Ocean, which has been sort of a normal thing. And we are approaching the equinox. And keep in mind, folks, March is the most geoactive month of the entire year, historically speaking. It all has to do with things like, well, most likely polarity, but certainly the angle of the magnetosphere with respect to the incoming solar wind. The angle. So there's the latest image looking a little bit anomalous there at 9:15 Universal Time. Fairly discharged despite the increased solar wind speed. And I just wanted to show you surface winds here as we have a very powerful, gigantic surface low here over the central U.S. And you may have been experiencing some major snow. Major low right there. You can see that massive counterclockwise rotation centered just north of the Texas stovepipe. And we normally just show the jet streams, but that's got something to do with why you're getting 4 feet of snow in certain places like north central Colorado. Anyway, here's the jet stream, and you can see this massive upper level counterclockwise rotation as well. It is a massive low, and it's providing many feet of wet snow. Shout out to Tony Heller, who estimates that he has shoveled 10 tons of wet snow at his Wyoming residence. Anyway, there are the jets of the Western world, and you can see this extreme meridional jet stream flow here. Looks like Charlie Brown's shirt. And we've got some backward jet stream here over the northern portion of South America. Jet stream blowing east to west in that area. Here's the jet stream scenario for the eastern hemisphere of planet Earth. I would note the jet stream blowing backwards over places like Indonesia and the Indian Ocean, at least the northern portion. Some backward jet stream flow, folks. It's not because Neptune is going to reverse its orbit and start orbiting backwards. But in any case, there are the jet streams. Next, we're going to show you snow depth, as we see quite a bit of snow depth. So let's get to it. I like to use windy.com to show snow depth. And check it out. We've got just under 4 feet of snow here to the west of Fort Collins, Colorado, as well as a solid 4 feet down here in central Colorado, and pushing 4 feet down here as well. There we got over 4 feet. That area near, I can't read what the heck that says. That's way too small for me to read. Telluride. So near Telluride, we've got over 4 feet of snow. Please leave a comment if you hear a lot of hot air coming out of Colorado. Next, moving on to more meteorology stuff. LightningMaps.org is going to be back in the next couple days here as its Strasbourg server burned. That's no good. So we're using Blitzortung.org instead, which actually powers LightningMaps.org anyway. So here we are at Blitzortung.org looking at a live lightning map, and we see some active strikes there in the North Atlantic, as well as northwestern South America, and perhaps near Dracula's castle in Romagna. Please leave us a comment if you want to go to the Carpathians on vacation. I hear it's a very dangerous place. Probably don't go to Romagna if you're a Westerner. It could make for bad times. You may want to just pole vault the Caldera instead. Next, we're looking at the cloud layer here using the shortwave radiation map, 3.9 nanometers NASA GOES interactive weather satellite. And check out this area. We've got some north to south upper level winds here, creating things that people are going to swear are chemtrails. By the way, the resolution on these satellites is 2 kilometers. and mankind does not have the capability to spray large quantities of chemicals in the stratospheric level from tankers. We just simply don't have planes to do that. Next, here's the water vapor map. Great view of that upper level and lower. That indeed powerful low pressure system, which is right over the western portion of Kansas right now. So right there is the center of the rotation, indicating the center of that low pressure system. And it's taken its good old time here as it's surrounded by dry mass of air. And that's part of the reason why so much snow fell. You got a great view of that on the cloud layer as well. As this atmospheric pond is being pushed to the north by that dry mass of air up through Minnesota, and causing sudden and heavy snow to fall there as well. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map, and we also see some likely wintry mix happening here in northern Iowa, and a strong band of storms all the way from the Louisiana border up to northern Illinois, as well as more heavy snows in eastern California there. Check it out, as well as some extremely heavy rain in central California. Also, Northern California and Southern Oregon getting peppered with additional snow. Next, I'd like to thank our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. Hey, patrons. Thanks for being the true source of funding and making it more likely that these videos will continue to exist and be publicly visible and free for everybody to view. Please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com, as we're paid just this side of nothing to make the content on YouTube. Patreon.com/smAsho. We put up all kinds of additional perks for our patrons. And patrons, please leave a comment. Maybe let other folks know why you became a patron and what the value of it is. Last but not least, we're going to do bonus features in the form of the colorized magnetogram, as well as more animations of the sun. And that looks like it's still a sunspot. This is likely to be named 2810. Here's 2809. 2808 has already degraded to a plage. That is no longer a sunspot, last I checked. And all eyes on this active region rising in the northeast. So there's 2808, which is about to be degraded to an alpha class, as this umbra is barely existent. (2809). 2810, likely to be named today, likely to be beta class, slightly increases the risk of solar flares, although those are small sunspots. So here's a close-up of the southern hemisphere. You'll see the growth of likely sunspot 2810, as well as the degradation of sunspot 2809 there. Great view of that. And here's the northern hemisphere. Former sunspot 2808 now decayed to plage. And most importantly, this active region rising. We're going to see a big uptick in solar activity here, folks, as this rises. You're going to see an increase in the radio flux and so on in the next couple of days. So there's the 304 angstroms view of that. And here's the same area in 171 angstroms. And you can see the size of those magnetic loops in this wavelength as that large active region rises. In any case, thanks for tuning in. Remember, don't stare at the sun unless you've got the proper instruments like the SDO or perhaps our channel. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Visit our links. Don't pole vault the Caldera. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back.